Are we going to start seeing mass starvation and we're just going to watch this on our phones, see emaciated people starving to death, children with their ribs being, exposed because they don't, like, how far does it have to go? Will we just watch the whole thing? Is everybody going to die?
I don't know. I mean, it's already gone farther than I thought was possible. So in a different time, I thought, well, this couldn't be possible. It couldn't happen. But it's on the verge of happening, mass starvation deaths. There already are starvation deaths, a significant number in Gaza. And I think there's no question there are a lot of deaths that are linked to malnutrition. Malnourished children are more susceptible to all kinds of diseases and so forth. So maybe the cause of death wasn't starvation, but it was clearly a contributing factor. We don't know how many really are dying overall. Again, it's hard to know because the health system has been just almost entirely obliterated. And the way that, they keep track of these deaths is by people who come to the hospital. A lot of people now, there isn't any hospital for them to go to. And then, the hospital often doesn't have the staff. And so a lot of deaths aren't being recorded. It's been 52 days, I think, maybe 53 now, since the Israelis completely shut down all shipments of food, humanitarian aid, fuel, into, and other necessities into Gaza entirely. It's like they had cut it way back. They even did that before October 7th. They were always kind of restricting those shipments. But now that they cut this off entirely. And then we've also talked about how, electric power was cut off entirely. So that means that, for example, desalination plants can't work. They don't have fresh water. Sewage treatment plants don't work. The places are flooded with sewage, and all of this contributes to disease. There's just at some point the Gazans had managed to store up a certain amount of food, because they always knew there's a risk of a couple of weeks, but apparently the stores have entirely run out. So we are looking at mass starvation if something doesn't change radically soon.
That's crazy. It's so crazy that this is happening. It's not like it's not like a natural disaster and we have all these people die. This is something that we are, allowing to happen. A mass starvation of a civilian population. Like, why can Egypt send in food? Like, how there's nothing that anybody can do? Yeah. Surely there's things we can do, right?
Well, now the Israelis have just complete control of all, the border crossings, including the Rafah crossing, which is where Egypt used to have control, but that has been taken over by the Israelis. The Philadelphia corridor.
At what point does it just become undeniable to everybody that this is a genocide?
It should be right now, but that's
right. But I mean, if we see this mass starvation, all these bodies, surely at that point, right? Anybody that has any doubt in their mind, it seems like they're going a little overboard, but I know it's war, it's complicated. It's this is not war anymore.
Yeah,
this is the extermination of a people.
Right. Yeah. And that's really what the statistics say. I mean, and more than all the countless videos that we said tell us that this is not war. This is an attack on a civilian population. I mean, the character of these two wars is very, very different. Actually, civilian casualties in the Russian war are very low by historical standards. They happen, and they're all tragedies, but they're very, very low by historical standards. But I don't know if you've ever had a war where civilian casualties were so high as a proportion of all casualties as in this Gaza war. The Israelis are just setting records just in the number of women and children killed and medical personnel killed.
Journalists.
Yeah, journalists, exactly. All these. I mean, these are historic. They're actually surpassing World War II numbers. And they're doing this. But yeah, again, it's just you occasionally get a little criticism, a bit of hand-wringing from Western leaders, but the weapons continue to flow.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
as these civilian casualties mount, and more and more people are becoming aware of it, and they're seeing all this devastation, and especially just the children. It's so heart wrenching to see these children that are blown apart, and but we'll see less and less support for Israel. Like we already saw that Gallup poll that came out maybe a month ago that said a majority of Americans, I think it was 53%, have a negative view of Israel now. And that number will continue to go up. And if we do begin to see mass starvation, like at what point when like 70% of Americans, 75, 80% of Americans, like how high do we have to go? How many people have to die to get that number high enough to where there's actual change that happens in this country?
Right. That's the only silver lining of the horror of this war is changing perceptions of Israel. And where they really matter, where these perceptions really matter, is in the United States. And so, it's just, again, it's really, I don't want to say that this is a reason for hope because it's such a horror, but there is a silver lining if the Israelis really go down this road. There is resistance within Israel, and there is an awareness among the saner Israelis and IDF leaders that, hey, this could look really, really bad. It's not like they really care, but they say this could look really, really bad, and we could be subject to war crimes, trials and that kind of thing. I mean, I know some IDF generals have made this argument. But at the present time, it's Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir and these type of people that have the reins of power, and they seem to be, I know Ben-Gvir is just to hell with all that. We got to starve them out. And if they win, we're talking about mass death. Well, just further mass deaths within Gaza, but it may finally, at some point. I hope sooner rather than later. I just, finally break the back of support for Zionism within this country.
I'm hoping that in the next election, we will have a candidate that is willing to stand up to Israel. That it was so disgusting seeing Biden and Trump both trying to out-Zionist each other. Oh, I'm more of a Israel lover than you are. Biden, you're like a Palestinian, this type of... It's just, I think the awareness now within just the general consciousness of the United States is that, Israel has way too much control over our country. And that's promising. So I think that if you had a candidate in the future that is anti-Israel or just a true America first, no, I mean, it doesn't even have to be anti. Just saying that, Israel is not we're not being controlled by Israel. AIPAC doesn't have power here. We want to have him register as a foreign agent. Like, I think that this could be one of the most important issues in a coming election. Like before, nobody's debating, their position on Israel. That was just sort of a given where America stands for Israel. Most people in America don't really care that much. So it's just like, okay, whatever. We don't really know what's going on over there. But now it's gotten to the point where people need to adopt a position, and that might be the deciding focal point for any future political primaries or midterms, whatever it is, that people need to adopt a position. And you'll find that candidates that are willing to say that we don't support what Israel's doing here in Gaza and that it needs to stop, they will do well, and then. Do you think so?
At some point, sure. We're not there yet.
How are we not there yet?
Well, I know. It's amazing that we aren't, but we aren't. I mean, it's just recently, I can't remember the guy's name. He was a Democrat from Brooklyn, I believe, who did.
Oh, right.
But
Cory Booker or something?
But
was it Cory Booker?
Not Cory Booker, but but he was a black man. Yeah. And he was highly critical of Israel and supportive of the Palestinians, but AIPAC got rid of him. And there was another case, too. I can't remember it right at this point. And then you say, well, there obviously is this growing anger, especially on the left in this country against Israel and, Zionism in particular. Shouldn't there be candidates reflecting that? And we really don't have that yet. I mean, even you look at AOC, who's supposed to be a far left candidate, or Bernie Sanders. Yeah, they've made some criticisms and even voted for some restrictions. But when you look at it, they're very minor. It's just like essentially it's just a slight deviation. They're not really going after Israel and Zionism in the way they should. We just don't have anybody. I mean, I think the one who's been most principled is Thomas Massey, again, who's not really anti-Israel, but truly America first, saying is, say, hey, we got to end this control of Israel over our country, right? He's been quite open about that, and he's done well. One thing is shown, it's like sometimes, when somebody, this was true of Ron Paul, very conservative Texas district, it's assumed like all these people are just kind of wildly for the military and whatever, and they're going to support every foreign adventure. Ron Paul opposed every last one of them, but he was reelected again and again and again because they knew he was a good man. And I think you see the same thing with Thomas Massey. And if you just have a more courageous individuals, and eventually somebody on the left too, it just says, forget it. They've seen what's happened, but I think that their power is waning, and somebody needs to break through. And when somebody really does, then the dam might break. Yeah. But we're not there yet. Again, it's just...
You're right. You're right. I mean, who's that? Like that Randy Fine guy got elected.
Yeah.
And he had that tweet saying, "Let the streets of Gaza run with blood," stuff like this, like just so open.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. All right, I have another question, kind of related. Just adopting the Palestinian cause, we're seeing it, resonate more and more with people, but it's hard to get Western countries to openly, denounce what Israel's doing. It seems like the Zionists have a grip not only here in the U.S. but a lot of Western Europe. But the one exception, though, seems to be Ireland, and I see a lot of comments even on our videos saying, free Palestine, and people from Ireland saying, love from Ireland. And it's interesting. How are the Irish sort of at the forefront of the Palestinian cause amongst the Western world, the Anglosphere?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe it's for historical reasons. They have no love for the Anglosphere because, of course, they were a colony of the British for a long time, and they fought a bloody war for their own independence. And so there has been I think a very strong anti-imperialist streak among the Irish. And I think that's what we're seeing. That's my explanation. There's probably more to it than that, but I think that explains a lot of it.
Yeah, I think adopting that position, like what Ireland has done, it does wonders for a country's soft power, because people want somebody to stand up. So people love Ireland now. It's like they are they're leading kind of the resistance within the West, and if you're a country that supports Israel, it destroys your soft power quickly, and none is more apparent than the United States itself. Just how much our soft power has gone down because of our unwavering support of Israel and its genocide in Gaza. People don't look at us in a favorable light. That moral superiority that we used to wave around, that moral high ground that we have, it's gone. It's completely gone out from under our feet. And we see, Yemen. People love the Yemenis amongst most of the world. The Houthis. People love, Ireland. Why do they like these countries? People like Iran even now. Or Russia and China more, because some of them are directly opposing Israel and standing up, like Ireland and Yemen, the Houthis, and the other ones, Russia and China are not directly opposing it, but they're offering an alternative, and they're showing,
Right. They do vote against it, and they do, they haven't taken real strong measures, but. For example, actually, the Houthis themselves, I think early on, said that Russian and Chinese ships can go through the Red Sea. It's just like they understood.
They singled them out. They understood that we're part of this, that we're supporting, the support for Iran, from Russia and China, and we know Iran is supporting the Houthis. So they are connected to the axis of resistance. So that's another thing that is, accelerating the decline of the U.S. empire and bringing the rise of the multipolar world is a country's position, our country's position on Israel. Like, I think this has destroyed our soft power more than anything else, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's no. Initially, the war in Ukraine probably helped the U.S. and it was damaging to Russia. But as time went on, things really started to change. And we've seen a lot of incidents, for example, in places such as various parts of Africa, where protesters will wave the Russian flag, and they do it because they see Russia actively resisting. It's not just, but then I think even more important is what's happening in Palestine. It's the same thing. It's just like those countries like Yemen that are actively resisting. There's a great part of the world that say, look to them. At least, these people give us hope. These people, give us cause to believe in our future.
Right. It gives me hope. I've never been to Ireland, but now I want to go.